approach. But let's look at typical organizations, the companies, the corporates that we serve, be it large enterprise, corporates, or even the small enterprise. They have challenges today. Many of them use traditional networks. Now we're speaking connectivity. Connectivity is about internet access, wide area networking, is about head office to remote branch connectivity. And today, the most common one will be MPLS. MPLS is very, very quite familiar. Remote connectivity, remote to head office connectivity. Due to the license, dedicated bandwidth, private bandwidth, but bandwidth constraint. We're now seeing constraint in bandwidth. There are loads of applications coming out now, bandwidth savvy applications. Before now, an organization who survive on 1 megabit or 2 to 4 meg, now they're asking for upgrades, huge capacity. And so we see that for them to upgrade, it's also expensive. The MPLS networks are expensive for communication between branch office or from branch office to HQ, or even for those wanting to access their applications from the data centers or from the cloud. That's a challenge for them. They require upgrades to serve the constantly growing apps that they use, which are also bandwidth serving. Now, looking at these organizations, many of them will think, oh, we wouldn't put our traffic on internet. Internet is only backups. The best effort services, they're not reliable, they're not secure. But you see, that was then. Broadband was only considered acceptable as backup services. They will say it's unreliable. But then it's a challenge within the enterprise enterprise organizations. Also, security is a major concern for them. They want to be assured that the applications are secure, there won't be any breach, things will go on well. You know, we all know hackers are all over now, ethical hackers, good one, and all of that. And then applications are moving into cloud.
Sorry to interrupt, Funke. If you can summarize it in another 2 minutes so that we get to the next one in the interest of time.
Next one, okay, that's fine. So I will just, our applications also moving into the cloud. And so are these traditional networks able to serve cloud applications? Maybe not. So let's go on to the next slide and see what the enterprise is really looking for this day. So today, they want to connect every other location in their network. They want to access data center located applications and data and all cloud applications. And let's see how we have been able to provide a solution to this using digital solutions. So I'll speak to SDN, software-defined networking. You'll see that in the next slide. Is a method, is an approach where we use software to build networks such that these networks are programmable and are centrally managed from a single plane. We also use network function virtualization, where we separate these network functions from the hardware. So everything now becomes virtual. You do not need to stack up routers, switches, firewall, but you do that with UCPs, non-proprietary equipment that are able to provide all of these services all in one box. Okay, let's go on. And how do we do this? We're able to transform our organizations, and I'll summarize quickly with what we are able to do with our organizations as we transform with these digital solutions. Next slide, please hit enter. And so it's an all-in-one box approach. Everything happens in one box. It's plug and play. They're not locked into any vendor. It eliminates switching costs for them. They're able to deploy in quick and short time. They're able to predict their OPEX and CAPEX, spin up licenses, software licenses as fast as possible. They're not buying devices, and they're able to manage their network from a single point. And all critical applications are prioritized. In fact, with this solution, the network is being transformed to a digital solution. And then the traditional connectivity solutions now become intelligent connectivity solutions. So I'm aware of time, so I will just summarize here that with SDN NFV solutions and the power of UCPs, we've been able to evolve connectivity solutions into intelligent connectivity solutions, digital connectivity solutions that allow customers to access the applications in the cloud easily, the benefits of their existing infrastructure. We do not tell them to junk the infrastructure. We complement everything such that whether they are on broadband or wide area or IPVPNs, wide area networks, these solutions complement each other to give them the desired experiences that they're looking for. So I'd just like to stop here. I'm mindful of time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Madam. I really appreciate a good presentation. From the network that is closest to the customer being the one that interacts with them and gets to design solutions that are more appropriate to them, to the challenges of connectivity that we experience, especially with what we may now consider as legacy networks, to the new networks where everything is cloud-based or data center located, and provision of all these services in one box. So thank you very much for the presentation. Of course, I'll come back to you with a question or two afterwards. And also, I want to thank the study group 1 of the ITU for the video earlier. I'll also, I hope someone from the study group can join us during the interactive session, because I'm interested in terms of whether the study group, presentation or report has certain models of connectivity, especially for a continent that is like Africa, where large swathes of our population are still rural. So if somebody can be ready for that. So thank you very much for that. I need to now get to Chakwama. 5 minutes. I'll give you 5 minutes for your talk, and then we'll get to the question session. Jaco?
Ok, thank you so much. Je pense que je vais parler en français, puisque je viens d'un pays francophone. Alors, je vais partager une vidéo avec Aminata, et je pensais que la vidéo pouvait être comme une présentation pour moi. Et peut-être après, je peux répondre aux questions s'il y a des questions. C'est l'idéal. Alors, si la vidéo est là, et puis on va lancer.
En tout cas, avec Pamo Janet, nous sommes très fiers de voir que certains business marchent déjà sur une partie des villes Fidji. Et puis, c'est un territoire avec beaucoup de potentiel en agriculture, en tourisme. Et donc, je peux avouer que le commerce du café, par exemple, et celui de certains services techniques marchent bien aujourd'hui. Et puis, leur paiement en termes de contribution nous permet aussi à suppléer aux défis financiers liés à certaines charges au sein de Pamo Janet. Je peux conclure que la communauté bénéficie d'une connexion libre et gratuite tous les jours à partir de 16 h grâce à cette collaboration avec les business locaux.
Tout au début, quand on n'avait pas l'Internet Wi-Fi, on avait des difficultés énormes parce que nous utilisions le modem MTN, parfois RTL, ça ne tenait pas. Mais avec l'avenir de Wi-Fi, on a eu à surmonter des problèmes de communication. Nos clients qui étaient en Amérique, en Europe, en Asie, avaient besoin de voir, par exemple, des images de nos produits. On n'avait pas la possibilité de leur envoyer les photos. Mais aussi, grâce à l'Internet, nous essayons de voir les prix au niveau du marché international.
Oui, maintenant là, je suis dans les chats de nos membres. Je venais de faire quelques photos. Je voulais envoyer ça sur WhatsApp.
Si vous me voyez à Idju, moi je suis stable à Idju. En tout cas, je n'ai pas envie d'aller à Goma, je n'ai pas envie de me déplacer. Parce qu'avec l'Internet, Pamo Janet, je peux faire tout ce que je veux. Je peux atteindre tout le monde en restant à Idju. Au point que je participe à des visioconférences dans les clubs des amis qui sont à l'étranger. Je fais la publicité de mon hôtel Je travaille vraiment tout en état ici. La réservation des clients, les gens m'atteignent facilement.
Il y a les partenaires qui viennent, qui sont sur l'île, qui viennent au bureau de la sécurité, qui, quand ils arrivent, ils sont connectés. Ils demandent la connexion, on leur donne le mot de passe, ils sont connectés, ils travaillent. Ils demandent où est-ce que vous tirez la connexion. Nous leur disons que non, c'est pas moi, Jeannette, qui nous donne la connexion Internet. Donc, c'est là qu'eux aussi sont intéressés et on ne cesse de leur expliquer le changement qu'apporte Pamo Jeannette dans la communauté.
Vous ne pouvez pas vous imaginer que je suis à Idjwi, je suis sur TripAdvisor, je suis sur Booking. Et c'est seulement. Donc, je suis à mesure de vendre l'hôtel dans le monde entier. Ça reste à Idjwi. Et c'est seulement à cause des confinements, des Covid, que l'impact des clients qui viennent des autres pays ou des autres continents ont diminué un tout petit peu. Mais je reçois même des réservations sur Booking. Je suis en contact avec des gens du secteur touristique, même des États-Unis, même dans d'autres pays. En tout cas, et ça booste. Je pense qu'avec l'Internet, on va aller plus vite qu'on le pouvait.
Nous, on s'est dit, comment est-ce que nous allons aussi appuyer Pamo Jeannette à aller de l'avant, à servir plus la communauté. C'est là que nous contribuons pour que Pamo Jeannette puisse évoluer, à œuvrer sur toute l'île. Parce que tout le monde a besoin de Pamo Jeannette, mais Pamo Jeannette n'est pas encore implanté partout sur l'île. Nous essayons d'appuyer Pamo Jeannette.
Nous demandons à Pamo Jeannette vraiment de disponibiliser l'Internet 24 heures sur 24. Comme on y est déjà habitué, on ne supporte pas d'Internet, et c'est vrai.
Voilà un peu la vidéo qui parle un tout petit peu du travail de Pamo Janet. Alors, les questions sont les bienvenues. C'était pour moi une façon de résumer un peu le travail que nous faisons en RDC. Merci.
Thank you. Certainly, I'll get back to you with some questions. Let me just ask if Dorcas Mudonio, our representative, is now in.
So, Umo, no, Dorcas and Keita, both of them are not in. So I think we should just move in with the panel discussion.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. And Karimo?
Karimo also, she's not in yet, I think.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. So let's get to the Chaco. You've discussed the present community network that you manage in the Idjwi Island, Island in DRC, and the video is very informative in terms of the value of the internet in connecting people, connecting producers to markets, and vice versa. Tell us about the business model that you've adopted and the sort of governance that is surrounding this business model. Chaco?
Merci beaucoup pour cette question. Effectivement, nous avons commencé avec Pamo Janet et nous sommes créé un partenariat avec ICI et ISOC. Nous sommes partis dans l'idée de travailler avec la population, la communauté, en leur donnant une connexion free. Alors, il était difficile pour nous de garantir la durabilité du réseau communautaire vu que nous donnons une connexion qui est free. Mais à un moment donné, nous nous sommes dit qu'on peut créer aussi un partenariat avec les business locaux qui sont sur place, notamment les hôpitaux, les hôtels, les organisations non gouvernementales, etc., et qui ont besoin d'être connectés pour leur travail, pour leur business. Alors, on leur a demandé de donner quelque chose pour soutenir Pamo Janet. Ce n'est vraiment pas un prix officiel, mais c'est juste un appui tant que nous avons des partenaires comme iSoc et APC qui nous appuient, ça nous fortifie un tout petit peu. Alors, en ce moment, nous sommes en train de structurer notre business model en créant un système de package parce que nous nous sommes rendus compte que certains clients ne consomment pas l'Internet au même degré. Alors, nous réfléchissons sur un système de package et que nous allons attribuer à chaque client qui veut être connecté à Pamojanet. Nous avons aussi créé un centre d'apprentissage digital dans lequel on a mis certains services que la population peut facilement utiliser, notamment l'impression, la saisie, la photocopie ou même l'utilisation de l'Internet via les machines qui sont à ce centre. Et ce sont ces recettes-là qui nous permettent de structurer un peu le budget mensuel de Pamojanet pour que le réseau reste durable.
And thanks a lot for the answer. And what sort of challenges and opportunities do you see? What, being in an island, what sort of challenges are there? And what opportunities, if we can turn those challenges into opportunities, especially in terms of extending this model of business to other islands or areas that are remote within the DRC?
Je vais commencer par le challenge parce qu'il y en a. Alors, Idju est vraiment éloigné de la ville dans laquelle nous travaillons. C'est vrai, c'est dans la partie est de la RDC et dans la province du Sud Kivu. Le bureau, la différence Pamojanet, se situe à Bukavu, mais nous avons également implanté un petit staff sur l'île. Alors, pour y aller, nous sommes obligés de payer un speedboat et le coût ne nous rend pas la vie facile. Parce qu'il faut y aller, il faut payer un hôtel et pour le travail qu'il faut faire, ça coûte vraiment au bureau. Alors, il y a ce challenge-là, mais également, il y a le non-soutien étatique parce que nous sommes vus comme une concurrence avec les maisons de télécommunications au lieu d'être soutenus parce que la population utilise une connexion for free, mais on sent qu'on n'est pas soutenu. C'est vraiment un challenge. Et puis, le fait que l'État ne s'y intéresse pas beaucoup, or c'est une opportunité de connecter ceux-là chez qui les maisons de télécommunications ne peuvent pas arriver. Et en termes d'opportunités, l'île, c'est vraiment un endroit sécurisant. Dans la partie est de la RDC, vous connaissez l'histoire, il y a autant de groupes armés, mais au moins sur l'île, il n'y en a pas. Donc la sécurité est plus ou moins bonne, ce qui nous facilite la tâche. Et puis, c'est un milieu qui est vraiment resté très enclavé et qui n'était pas en contact avec le monde extérieur. Alors, nous avons cherché de faire non seulement le désenclavement sur tous les autres plans de la vie sociale, économique, mais aussi, nous, on a apporté le désenclavement numérique. C'est-à-dire, la personne qui est sur l'île peut aussi connecter les personnes qui sont ailleurs grâce à la connexion de Pamojanet.
And lastly, from me, I still want to understand, and our audience would want to understand the sustainability of the model. Given the rural nature of the population, how do you get to sustain it financially in order to run it as a business?
Nous nous sommes appuyés sur ce partenariat local et nous avons cherché à faire approprier la population le réseau communautaire parce que nous ne sommes pas de l'île, nous ne sommes pas nés là-bas, mais nous apportons un outil qui peut les aider à se développer. Alors, la première politique que nous avons fait, c'est de leur approprier le réseau en étant en partenariat avec l'administration du village et de leur montrer combien cet outil est vraiment utile à eux. Ce qui a poussé les partenaires ou les business locaux à s'impliquer directement sur la marche. Alors, nous avons une autre politique de recherche de grants, des fonds, avec des partenaires comme iSoc, comme APC. Et à chaque fois, nous écrivons des projets, nous discutons avec ces partenaires-là pour leur montrer les déficits que nous avons. Et iSoc, par exemple, nous appuie en termes techniques pour certains équipements techniques, nous appuie aussi en termes de formation parce qu'il faut non seulement apporter un outil à la population, mais aussi leur montrer comment l'utiliser. Alors, c'est un peu cette politique-là de base sur laquelle nous travaillons, mais dans le futur, nous voulons vraiment structurer une chose qui pourrait être duplicable ailleurs.
Thank you very much. Let's now go to the business, the purely business level before we go to the continental level. Funke, tell us more about the challenges and opportunities for providing connectivity services using emerging technologies, especially in an area as big as Africa, where much of the population is still rural, and even in cities, you have populations who oftentimes are not able to afford the sort of technologies that you have displayed on the screen, you know, high-end sort of stuff. What challenges does the business experience in Africa?
Okay, thank you very much. And I'll take it from the business angle, the challenges that we face trying to offer services in Africa. I've spoken about the poor in-country networks, and I'll be a bit specific now to say, so we desire to be able to serve all our clients, all our customers, wherever they are. So we take an organization with 30, 40 branches, or even 50, more than that. And they expect us to be able to serve all of these locations seamlessly, easily, and affordably. But you realize that the business also, the business viability will drive the expansion as well. You will want to put infrastructure, points of presence in locations where you're going to derive the revenue. And so, you know, a turn between, do I cover the whole of the country and wait for the business to come? Or do I wait for the business to come first and then roll out? But as a provider and with the customer experience as paramount, you really will not wait for the business to come. You really still have to invest in these networks, in ensuring that the whole of the country is covered. But of course, this has to be done in phases and in stages. So really a major challenge is ensuring adequate and significant coverage across the whole of the country. So for us as an organization. So you will have to do business cases, crunch the number, and know what it takes to go to the hinterland, to go to the rural area. Now, so if you look at the financial services, they're backed by the law, they're regulated, they must have branches everywhere. And so as their partner, as their trusted advisor, we really need to have the networks in place for them to be able to connect and open branches. So for us, it's not for the faint-hearted. The financing is is huge, but of course we're trying our best. We don't shy away from that. We see the opportunity, we go for it. And many of our customers also across all verticals also understand this. And so they're like, okay, let us share your roadmap with us, share your plans with us. Where would you be in the next 6 months? So we see where they are they're going to, and then we begin to expand in that regard. Otherwise, if you just paint the whole of the country red and you're waiting for your base stations to be occupied, you may wait forever. So, but then we strike a right balance. So it's not as if we don't fold our hands and do nothing, we still go. But of course, it's a journey that we go together with our customers. We understand them, we become their trusted advisor, we become their partners, we're collaborators. And so we understand the locations that are prime and important to them, and we go on this journey with them. In fact, many of them come to tell us, should we be playing in this space? We have these ideas, what should we do? They also rely on us, especially as we talk of digital transformation. We also want to allow these organizations to focus on their primary responsibility. So take a bank, focus on your banking, leave the connectivity with us, leave the spread of us. In fact, many of them, we used to build networks, they don't do that anymore. So we go into the investments for them, and then they ride on. It's not cheap, but then we're doing it and we're successful at it. We're able to strike the right balance.
I'll follow up with a question on that. Dear participants, thank you very much for keeping it here. We have some very interesting questions already being posted, so I'd like to request my panelists to also look at the chat and see whether we can deal with some of those questions on the chat. I realize a good number of them may be in English, so we'll just ask that you look at the chart and see whether you can deal with. And if you have any question, in the interest of time, we'd request that you post it so that the panelists can then engage with you accordingly on the chat. I have to follow this, Funke.
Yeah.
And Andrew will take a bit of this flag, so not just yourself. What specific opportunities? I know COVID has disrupted our fabric of business, but what specific opportunities have you seen in the African continent in the last 1.5 years that have been brought by COVID-19? I know it's been a curse to everyone, but what specific opportunities have you seen brought about by COVID from a purely business perspective, either policy, regulation, and operations?
Okay, thank you very much. And I'll speak to specific opportunities. Now, before COVID, we all would get up in the morning, drive to work, commute to work. We sit in the comfort of our offices. The IT manager is there ensuring that we're all working seamlessly. The most is if I don't want to come to the office, I've got a VPN client. I tunnel into the office applications. I use my applications, I work. And all of this have been enabled by MPLS networks, the IPVPNs, the WAN links. Now, before COVID, many IT managers had their server rooms. The servers were in the server rooms. So it meant that the remote locations would have to traverse the traditional links, get to the head office, do what they want to do. And life was good. And at times you go to some organizations, we hear, oh, there's no connectivity to the head office. So the system is down. We can't proceed on this transaction and all of that. And then suddenly COVID came without warning, without notice. And so I remember that in our office, we were in the office on a Monday, and the next day we started working from home. Now it meant that for those who had their servers, their applications residing at the head offices, they needed links, connectivity to get to the head office first. And that was a challenge. It was not reliable. And then at some point, these organizations had moved some applications out into the cloud. Applications had moved into data center. Some had moved into the cloud. And many of them now, so many applications now are cloud-based. And so you look at it, do I tunnel into the office first, and then before you go into the cloud? So that was a challenge. The connectivity was not so great. So what is the opportunity that comes out of this? Cloud connectivity. Connectivity that will allow customer applications to work seamlessly, to work effectively. So, for example, I'll use Microsoft 365 as an example. They're all based in the cloud, Salesforce, Sage, and all of that. If I'm working from any part of the world, I have no business getting to the HQ first before going to the cloud. So it meant that wherever we are, wherever I'm working from the comfort of my home or wherever, the world is a global village, there needs to be some intelligent or digital connectivity that takes me from wherever I am to those applications in the cloud. And that is what the traditional networks could not provide.
Thank you very much for the question. I said, Andrew, you have to take a bit of this slack. You work largely with the member states, and you've seen it all since COVID came in. The sort of policies and regulatory experiences that governments have had to adopt in response to COVID-19. How has been the response of your membership from an African perspective in terms of policies for responding to COVID-19 in terms of connectivity and digital inclusion within the 1.5 years? What policies have you seen, policy shifts, regulatory shifts in terms of ensuring that we have connectivity and integrating the mass of our population, be it educational, be it health, be it agriculture, into the mainstream of connectivity?
Thank you, John. A lot of it I learned from you. through your membership as well. But to say the truth, I could not be happier. I couldn't be happier with the responses of the African countries, because like everybody else, they were surprised. The fact that they were further behind from everybody else in terms of digitalization, notwithstanding, they picked up and saw what needed to be done. Now, the issues lay with infrastructure and interoperability. They lay with the lack of content, because when somebody is at home and they need to get a government service and there is nothing online, even if they have connectivity, then that's a problem as well. And then there was the enthusiasm of the young entrepreneurs, everybody coming up with very, very innovative, useful applications, but without the legal and regulatory framework. That was another challenge. And probably the last challenge that I should mention, there are many, but just those few, was security online. People have no option but to put their credit cards online, a platform that is not necessarily that secure. The advent or the shooting up of cyber attacks, although we hear a lot about the US being the fuel system being attacked, there are lots more in the world, but there are lots more in Africa which we didn't hear. So that's a challenge. So the reason why I say I'm very proud of the response is that the ITU created Rage for COVID, a platform where operators, policymakers could come, pose their questions and see who else has resolved this and therefore embrace the solution. There was co-creation of solutions for issues that were not resolved. And a lot of these areas that I have talked about were resolved. On the issue of infrastructure, for example, the regulators started freeing spectrum on a temporary basis to meet the demand, which I thought was really, really creative and helped a lot of people. In terms of content, the government started, where there is no internet connectivity, bringing teachers to the radio stations and teaching on radio or on TV where that was possible. We had lawyers. This week, as I was at a Lawyers Hub conference, they stood up and said, okay, what do we need to do? What in this has a legal framework that we need to be involved in, and started to advise not only regulators, but ministers, the policymakers. And then in terms of security, on the side of ITU, we got asked a lot of questions about, how can we put a framework, a cert in place to protect ourselves without necessarily discouraging these young people who are being entrepreneurial. So in terms of opportunities, I think Frankie mentioned a lot of them, but we are now getting to a stage where we must reconsider satellites. We now have low orbiting satellites, we have hubs, and we used to dismiss them offhand because they were too expensive. But now I think the market is forcing these services to be affordable. And that is where, in addition to the submarine cables that Frank talked about, and given our terrain, we must go to. So as I stop, consider the advent of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area and implications of everybody being connected in order to take part. We now know that women in Ethiopia who are getting next to nothing when they are preparing the coffee for export now have access directly to customers. what that means is enormous. And yeah, let me stop there.
No, you are not going to stop there, Andrew. I'll still come back to you. In your opening remarks, you had applauded really the role of the private sector in connectivity, and I really, especially for the post-COVID era, I'd like again your experience as an international organization working with African governments, how the private sector has responded to the challenge that has been brought to them by the needs brought about by COVID, in your perspective, and whether that model, you know, if we can do it during COVID, why not in normal times? Because the need is there. Briefly, as we are running short of time.
John, I think they are going to continue doing what they started as a result of COVID. They were forced to create packages thinking that they are going to lose money. Their profits doubled because everybody was at home, everybody was using their services. So I think this is going to continue. I think the operators are also now collaboratively going to continue to work with regulators saying, you know what, you reduce the price of spectrum, see what happened. So why can't we take that on a more permanent basis? They see the starting, the launching, and now the operationalization of trade across Africa that needs for them to interoperate, to work together. And we now have mobile money in different countries working together. You can go to Airtel and send money to Nigeria, MTN. So those things I think are not going to go back because it is serving the citizens and the companies are making money. So I think that's what I was applauding. They took the risk and stepped up to the plate, and they were rewarded by higher profits. Another thing that is happening now, they are emboldening these young entrepreneurs, because when they need a platform, these operators are taking a risk. And as a result of these applications, for example, I learned yesterday that the African Union Economic Development, Trade and Mining Commission created a continental and Africa e-trade platform. And I'm glad to say Rwanda was appointed as the seat of this. But the reason why I'm mentioning that is that everybody has a stake in this, in being able to create an intra-Africa trade based on digital services, and these are provided by operators. So I have no doubt that what they have started will continue and will benefit all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. We got to close this so that we open it to the public. If I don't get someone from the study group 1, I'll come back to you with the models of access. But Madam Chaka, if you were to have your wish, vis-a-vis the DRC government, what would be your 3 top priorities that you want to see done to grassroots organizations by governments, grassroots organizations such as yours that have brought people who ordinarily would not have been on the mainstream of connectivity and are now marketing their coffee from Kivu to all over the world? Pamoja means togetherness in DRC. What would you tell the DRC government? Top 3.
Ok, la première chose est que le gouvernement soit en mesure d'avoir un budget pour soutenir de telles initiatives qui sont différentes des maisons de télécommunications. La deuxième chose, c'est de nous faciliter aussi dans l'obtention d'une licence, par exemple, parce que nous travaillons comme des demi-providers, parce qu'ici, la licence chez nous coûte $50,000. Or, nous n'avons pas la possibilité de le faire. Mais également que l'État congolais garantisse un peu la sécurité à ce genre d'initiatives, parce que nous ne pouvons pas aller dans tous les recoins de nos villages où il y a des groupes armés et la sécurité est grandissante. Donc voilà un peu les trois choses. Qu'il y ait un budget au niveau national pour soutenir ces initiatives, que le gouvernement assure la sécurité de la population, mais également que nous nous sentions soutenus par le gouvernement en termes d'appui de tout genre pour aider ces genres d'initiatives.
Thank you very much for that response. Of course, I'm using the DRC as a miniature of Africa. Thank you very much for that response. Madam Fanke, speaking to the government of Morocco in Rabat, to the government of South Africa in Johannesburg, what would be your top 3 asks from our governments as a tech organization?
Top 3 asks.
Sorry, we seem to be losing you. Speak up. I have the mic close to you.
Okay. Thank you very much. You're saying, as a service provider, what will be the top 3 asks from the government? Okay, so first and foremost, I will ask for a favorable regulatory environment where the regulator understands the pains and the challenges of operators. So we want to work closely with the regulators. We want them to understand the nature of our business, our pain points, and we want them to listen more. Now they're listening. I'm not saying they're not listening, but we want to be more interactive with government through the regulators, such that as regulatory issues are coming up, it's favorable to service providers. So take spectrum, for example, access to spectrum. We want to launch new products and services. We want to launch post-COVID solutions. But if the spectrum is not affordable, we won't be able to proceed. So affordable spectrum for all operators. Now, another opportunity is in fiber. Now, some people will insist it must be fiber, it must be tariffs. We pay huge right-of-way for whoever wants to build fiber. Right-of-way is in per kilometers measured in distance. Perhaps some decent payment structure, some decent cost structure that will allow us.
Kindly speak up a bit. We are losing you. We're losing you somehow. Speak up a bit. If you can go through that again.
So I'm saying that the tariffs, the payments that we make, rights of way. So I'm using fiber build as an example. To build a stretch of fiber, you understand the bottlenecks that you have to cross, the payment, the licenses, payment really for services. So cost of sale is very, very high. So in areas where whatever cost that is going to government, we really want them to temper that with mercy. You see, if we have to pay huge sums of money for right-of-way, then you wouldn't want to build. I know there are other options of taking fiber into the community, but for some data rates, for some cell locations, you're better off digging and putting this fiber in the ground. And then I will encourage the third one is for government to allow us collaborate, to share infrastructure, to build resources together. There is no point for different providers investing in infrastructure along the same road. We're hoping that government will help us build a structure that allows us to collaborate together. Now, I mean collaboration among service providers, where you can leverage on my infrastructure, I can leverage on my infrastructure in a controlled manner, not at the mercy of the provider or whoever has it, but government allowing us to define collaborative or structures that help. That's a win-win for both parties: spectrum sharing, spectrum trading, and all of that, without wanting to be a Shylock. That would be my 3 asks.
Thank you very much for those. From fiscal policies to infrastructure sharing, thank you very much for those interventions. Now, back to you, Andrew, and again, your 3 asks. The study group 1, you are the only one I'm seeing here, at least whose face is in front of me. The study group 1 report that the video that we listened to earlier, unless somebody is here to come in, outlined the role of connectivity and bringing communities into the digital economy, the role of the private sector, and various models of connectivity. In terms of its implementation, what would your top three asks from the membership be in terms of implementing Study Group 1 report? Or if there's someone here from the Study Group 1, please feel free. We are an open society. Please come over and speak on the issue.
Hello.
Go ahead.
My name is Roisin. I work at the ITU. I'm the Study Group advisor for Study Group 1. So just to situate this video is part of the launch of the Question 7.1 report, which is the report, the work of membership of that question for the last 4 years on looking through the contributions of the different countries and their experiences and their lessons learned that they wanted to share as contributions in the Study Group platform on digital accessibility. So accessibility of ICTs to persons with disabilities. Of course, it is not the specific topic linked to today's session per se, but it is an element of inclusive connectivity. And that was the reason why we decided, since the video was ready and the report was ready, that it was the right time for you to be able to be apprised of it. And along the same line, if I may, 2 days back, Madame Regina Fleur, the Study Group 1 chairperson from Côte d'Ivoire, she actually also launched one other report, which is for the Question 4.1, which is probably more pertinent to today as I hear you and hear the discussion, which is about economic policies and the cost of services. And there was also a guideline on cost modeling that regulators could be looking into, the cost models that they could be looking at when devising the costs that will be put out for affordable connectivity. So what I can say is the Study Group 1 has a series of questions at this point in time. It's closing. We are just in the wake of reaching WTDC. We have a last meeting in October, starting on the 11th of October to the 25th of October. And we would like members to join there for the discussion, but the topics would vary by question. And you would have Question 5.1, which is aptly linked to what we're talking today, which is about connectivity for rural areas and how we can improve that. And also Question 1.1 that talks about broadband technologies being deployed. So it's at a higher level than what you're doing right now, Mr. Omo and the team, but I also have the rapporteur of Question 7.1. So the lead person in membership from one of the countries who for the last 4 years worked on it. So maybe she would like to join and say a few words. I see her connected, but I'm not sure if she's listening in and is available to say a few words. It's Madame Amela Odobasic. She works in the regulatory organization in Bosnia and Herzegovina. Thank you.
All right, if we have time, we'll allow them to make a comment, but Andrew is not off the hook yet. You are 3 asks of African government in terms of what the work that you do. Top 3, briefly, because we want to interact with the public now.
Okay, I actually agree to a large extent with colleagues, panelists, but I would ask for our governments to have another look at the investment terms, because we do really need to attract investment into the continent. We need to have incentives, better incentives, and not just look at the sector as a cash cow. We need to have a long-term view of investment into technology. And to that end, I just read that in the US, they're asking private sector to contribute 2% of their, or to invest 2% of their profits into infrastructure as an effort to create universal infrastructure. So I'm wondering whether our governments can't do that. And second is also agreeing with Funky and a collaborative regulation with operators and private sector, with operators and regulators and policymakers sitting together to come up with regulations that favor everybody, and most importantly, that favor the citizens and universal connectivity and inclusion. And together with that comes then an all-of-government approach to bridging this gap. And the reason why I say all-of-government, COVID has shown that in health, you had to use ICTs and connectivity. In agriculture, I had to do the same. Everything is using. So why are we saying this is the responsibility of the Ministry of ICT, which during budgeting comes at the bottom of the rank? So we can't do that anymore. But the third one is really setting up or stepping up capacity development, because the people that are using these services and really playing a role in the digital economy are those that have capacity to do that. And those people, those other people up country in the rural areas may have connectivity, but they have no capacity to take advantage of it. So that's my three.
Thank you very much, Andrew. I see we are running short of time. There are questions or comments on the chat that I'd like to refer to, and I see most of them have been referred to Madame Chaco. Very useful comments from Rosario. We thank you for those comments. But Chaco, and this will be perhaps part of your parting shot. It would be great to know how connection to the internet benefited those partners you mentioned through some measure. You know, the partners, either the communities or the network service providers that you are working with. So there's a comment there, perhaps a question. Do you want to respond to that, Chaco?
Yes, I already respond to, sorry, j'ai déjà répondu à Rosario et j'ai lui expliqué que c'est vraiment un bon questionnaire d'évaluation qui peut être fait et cela permet de mettre notre relation avec nos partenaires d'une façon vraiment très, très proche. Alors, ce que nous faisons, c'est juste les appeler en chaque début ou fin de mois pour leur demander si la connexion était bonne, s'il y a des problèmes techniques que nous pouvons faire. Mais Rosario me propose de faire juste un questionnaire d'évaluation qui peut nous permettre même de le documenter. Et c'est quelque chose qui peut être dupliqué pour les autres réseaux communautaires. Et peut-être cela peut montrer aux maisons de télécommunications, combien nous sommes productifs et combien nous aidons ceux qui sont loin et qui ne peuvent pas être appuyés par les maisons de télécommunications.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for the comments and for especially to the staff of the ITU for posting the various links where we can access further material in regard to this. So before we conclude, I'd like, before we go to your final parting shots, I saw that I think there was an invitation for an ITU staff to make a comment. I don't know whether he or she is still available to make that comment.
John, this is Aminata. Just to let you know also that Karimo is here. She's in the panel.
Yes,
so
I've seen her. Now, if there's none, we have a very interesting content here before we get to our parting shots, and I'd like that we give this our attention. Again, if there are still questions that you have, please put them in the chat or just raise your hand. I may be able to take just one. But let's allow now Karimo to make her presentation. And then I'd like, in one sentence, Madame Chaco, Madame Funke, and Mr. Rugege to respond to that point. In one sentence, not more than a sentence, which will be your parting shot. Karimo, please go ahead.
Hello, everybody. My name is Karimot Odebode, and I'm a performance poet and a member of the Generation Connect Africa group. I'll be presenting a poem titled With Just a Click of the Button. With just a click of the button, we are connected. Miles apart, but connected. They say the world is a global village where hopes are built with few words from strangers just across the screen, but miles apart. We share digital hugs and love, stand in solidarity with our loved ones, sing the song of victory, and dance to the tune of love with just a click of the button. We have built houses on the web, named them and furnished them. With just a click of the button, we can breathe into each other, laugh at our jokes, and cry together when our hearts are heavy with just a click of the button. It's surreal how a click of the button has made us connected, made us relive memories, and clog onto stories we do not want to perish. We have found love on social media, made money, and learned a ton of knowledge with just a click of the button. We have solved problems with just a click of the button. Written codes that have transformed lives, connected. A click of the button, several wires and codes across oceans. We stay connected with technology. The world is just a click away. We are connected. The world is just a click away. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Karima, for the click of the button. We are bringing this to a close, and I'd like to start from the grassroots to all the way high up. Chako, what's your comment to that emotional appeal?
Oh my God, it's very interesting. Finally, I will speak in English because I understand
and this will also be your parting shot because we are closing this now.
Yeah, it's very, very interesting text, and maybe it's possible to share it with us. It will help us also to go in deep in it. It represents the reality on how the technology helps people now, and especially in this period of crisis of COVID-19. So thank you so much for this text. If it's possible to share it with us, it will be very, very great. Yeah.
Thank you. Funke?
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks for the poem. Very interesting. So mine is a call to action. With a click of the button, let's reimagine the future and create a new continent with digital solutions. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew.
First of all, let me.
I'm sure it will be impossible for you to do it in a sentence, so I'll give you 3 sentences.
I just want to appreciate Karima for this wonderful poem. So my parting shot: let's all be bold to ensure that at the click of a button, we can all be connected, enriching each other, distance, social standing, color, greed, ethnic, whatever, notwithstanding.
Thank you very much, Andrew, and thank you very much, Istvan again for the posting. Please check the chat. We've shared a number of links where you can get further material in regard to this topic. But viewers, participants, I want to thank you very much for participating in this session today. It's been an eye-opener in terms of some of the initiatives in Africa, from right at the grassroots to a purely commercial venture and the ITU and what it's doing in Africa. I think what has come to the fore is the value of connectivity, and that at the click of a button, we can bring those who are far away into the mainstream of economics, to the mainstream of politics, to the mainstream of agriculture, to the mainstream of our education and health and all facets of our life. There are a number of appeals that have been made in terms of the need for our governments to involve all stakeholders, right from the private sector to civil societies, to other players in the sector. This is very dynamic. It keeps changing day by day. And so we need to have elastic policies that can accommodate everyone on board. There's also the call for a review of our fiscal and monetary policies in order to ensure that we go for economies of scale rather than taxing businesses at the very word go. They are grassroots organizations that are working in communities, that are working in islands, that are working with the people that have not been brought into the mainstream, and using very innovative ideas to bring them on board. This need for our governments to ensure that there's necessary support, the private sector, civil societies, and indeed issues of security. So we want to thank you for joining us today. We really have enjoyed your company. And from the ITU, I think the need for collaboration rather than competition, the need to ensure that the private sector is brought in the mainstream of things, and the need to ensure that we start doing and we talk less and do more, because we have so many initiatives across the board, and we need to start doing something that can have an impact in our societies, be it at the level of infrastructure, be it at the level of services. The World Bank estimates that for Africa to be connected properly to the grid will need $100 billion. And that very report, 2 years ago, recognizes again that not a single entity can be able to do that. We need to work with grassroots organizations, regional organizations, international organizations, the private sector, financial bodies, to bring everybody on board for a massive push that can enable us to register some positive development. So I want to thank you very, very much for joining our session today, and hope that we can have an opportunity to meet again. I see that Ladi Faron has a very interesting idea that perhaps the ITU regional office and ourselves would be more interested in knowing and perhaps putting up in terms of some of the initiatives that are coming up as we prepare for the development conference next year in Addis Ababa. So please, let's get in touch with one another. Let's keep in touch, and so that we know the developments that each and every one of us is undertaking. So from me in the cold Nairobi, thank you very much, and look forward to seeing you again. Bye-bye.
Omo, maybe this is Aminata. I want to suggest a quick photo group with just 30 seconds before everybody jump off.
We have a minute for that, Aminata. That's okay. Just turn your videos on.
Your smile's on as well.
Shall we ask all participants to turn their videos? Yes, please. Okay, amazing. Let me wait for 2 more seconds. Okay, please put your best smile and ready. 1, 2, 3. Great, we have some shots. Thank you so much and have a nice afternoon.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.